There are countless fighting games I've covered on the channel, but a special one I always find myself returning to is 2012's Street Fighter X Tekken. Ask any diehard fighting game fan their thoughts on the game, and you'll either hear, yeah, that game is cool, or, yeah, that game can die in a fire. But I've always had a lot of great childhood memories associated with its colourful roster. Many moons ago, when I first played the PS Vita port, I was taken aback by seeing 12 extra combatants on the select screen. Hang on, they're not in the Xbox version, child me shouted, not yet ready to see Elena's outfit, and after doing a bunch of research in the school library or in the computer room, I realized that they were all PlayStation exclusive. Much like with my Cole video from ages ago, I've decided to cover DLC fighters who, despite originating from other franchises entirely, were nice enough to show up to the party. That's right, Mecha Pac-Man and Bad Box Art Mega Man. Today's goal, dear viewer, is to not only figure out the how and why behind their inclusions, but also to understand how they function as fighting game characters. As I'm recording footage from Street Fighter X Tekken's PC port, their VFX fails to render properly, although this doesn't impact gameplay, so don't worry. With a preamble knocked into oblivion, let's get to the bottom of Street Fighter X Tekken's weirdo guest characters. Unlike Infamous's Cole McGrath, both Mega Man and Pac-Man truly need no introduction, as they've been at the forefront of video game culture for around 40 years, especially the latter. From platform fighters to racing games to Super Monkey Ball of all things, Pac-Man has truly marked his territory in wider popular culture. I challenge you to find anyone, even those who are dead and can only be contacted via black magic, who hasn't heard of Pac-Man before, dude. With that said, how did men of the Pac and Mega varieties make their way into a Capcom-developed crossover fighting game? Well, it's a bit of a complicated answer. When the game was first announced way back in 2010, its epic reveal trailer ended with Mega Man and Pac-Man's iconic sprites running around the screen. At the time, this seemed just like a funny reference to Capcom and Namco's earlier work, and no one actually expected them to become playable characters. That is, until they were announced for Street Fighter X Tekken's PS Vita conversion, with former Capcom community manager Brett Elston stating, "If you're like me, you may be wondering, why that version of Mega Man?" Well, in the spirit of crossover fun, the dev team wanted both Capcom and Namco's mascots to join the fray in a slightly silly, goofy way. This all sounds like sunshine and rainbows, but you have to remember that this announcement happened during the worst possible time for Mega Man fans. After the Big C revealed 4 brand new series installments, all of them were cancelled, including the hotly anticipated Mega Man Legends 3. Intentionally including Bad Box Art Mega Man after axing his incoming games was like a major middle finger to the fans who had stuck with the Blue Bomber through thick and thin. I don't think it was Capcom's intention to upset anyone, and hell, I even found some positive comments in old message boards, but these are the exception and not the rule. Even today, right now, you can go online and instantly find appalled Mega Man fans who were disgusted over how their favourite character was being treated. Early concept art reveals designs for a more traditional Mega Man, one donning a fully blue outfit. Some of these sketches would go way too far with his proportions, but for the most part, they do look quite authentic. The old Game Boy Advance art style also got some love, as well as this futuristic looking design. If this looks a bit familiar, it's because it was based on Mega Man's appearance from Maverick Hunter, a cancelled first-person shooter. This game was supposed to be darker, edgier, and grittier than ever before, taking the series into more of a Metroid Prime kind of territory. But wait! Capcom yelled out from their nuclear bunker. Pac-Man is in the game. You guys like pizza with a slice missing, right? He's pretty cool. And while that may be so, his appearance is very peculiar. You can clearly tell that he's piloting what seems to be a larger version of Tekken's Mokujin, but I was unable to discover why this design decision was made. Concept art exists for him too, revealing all sorts of weird ideas, as well as one of the creepiest smiles I've ever seen. It appears as though Capcom's original idea was for Pac-Man to pilot a robot modeled after himself, with regular, skinnier, and bulkier builds being drafted. Builds inspired by Mokujin came later down the line, and one of them straight up is Mokujin. The final 2 closely resemble what ended up in the finished game, but their hands and feet are modelled after his iconic 2D sprite. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to uncover a definitive reason as to why Pac-Man made it into Street Fighter X Tekken, but my speculation is that he's meant to be a foil to Mega Man. They look and sound totally different, but their zany energy complements each other nicely, and they're also 80s video game icons. This is all well and good, but if you were like me back in the day, you would be wondering why both fighters were PlayStation exclusive. It's not like Mega Man or Pac-Man are owned by Sony, and they were even found on the Xbox 360 version's disc, so what gives? Well, I believe it stems from a marketing deal between Sony and Capcom. By receiving external funding for the game, Capcom would have to develop Sony-exclusive content and announce new features in a way that made it sound like you had to buy the PS3 version. Characters were revealed at Sony's E3 conference, trailers were uploaded to Sony's YouTube channels, and developer interviews were hosted on Sony's website. It sucks that Xbox fans were never able to truly utilize the guest characters, but as creating every one of these fighters isn't cheap, I do understand why Capcom took the deal. Okay, it's time to analyze Mega Man and Pac-Man strategies, and as to not overwhelm you with a constant stream of information, we'll cover each character separately. First up is Mega Man, and oh boy, his belly isn't just for show. After falling into a pit of poor life choices, Mega Man stopped hitting the gym, becoming quite standard in the process, I guess you could say. For a hyper-advanced robot with all sorts of special abilities, Street Fighter X Tekken's depiction of the character is more of a shoto than anything. While he lacks a Tatsu, keeping the enemy at bay with fireballs and anti-airing with a Shoryuken is part of Mega Man's basic strategy. Jumping medium kick is even a cross-up, and hell, his jumping medium punch has literally been copied from Ryu. Mega Man's fastest normals are his 5-frame light punch, heavy punch, and jumping light punch, although their recovery leaves him open for punishment. Other light attacks have at least 6 startup frames, but you'd want to use his medium buttons for poking and hit confirming into combos. Medium punch is a 7-frame uppercut that often trades with jump-ins, albeit one that forces a juggle state on counter hit, and medium kick is a close-range poke. When spaced, this can easily chain into heavy normals for a cross rush. Crouching medium kick functions as you would expect, but its range sucks. Whiff punishing the move is as easy as pie, and even if Mega Man does connect with it, his only full combo routes involve meter or hard tags. Heavy punch, despite moving Mega Man forward, also has mediocre range, a fact made worse by its lack of cancelling when spaced. Unless you're right in the opponent's grill, the attack can't cancel into a special move. Heavy kick is even worse in this regard, but I believe it's more of an anti-air button than a spacing tool. In this situation, it actually works pretty well, doing a decent chunk of damage in the process. Aside from his crouching heavy kick being his iconic slide, Mega Man's normals aren't anything amazing, with his special moves suffering from the same fate. Mega Buster is a generic projectile that travels horizontally, striking the enemy once upon contact. The EX version leads to a soft knockdown, but as you can easily just jump over or block the move outright, it's used more to control space rather than to actually deal damage. Hit confirming into Mega Buster via low forward is classic Street Fighter footsies, but as the move is -1 on hit, you're giving up your turn in neutral. Mega Uppercut is a stock standard DP without any unique properties, honestly. To spice things up a little, Ice Slasher is a projectile that freezes the enemy on hit. The heavier the version, the greater the range, with regular versions leaving Mega Man +3. This would be great if you had a 3-frame button, but you'll need to use the EX version's +15 for combos. Even then, the pushback prevents most, if not all normals from connecting outside of the corner. Thunder Beam is Mega Man's final and most puzzling special. Although it shoots out projectiles that cover multiple angles, it has 16 startup frames and can only be performed out of a neutral jump. The EX version is almost identical to the meterless version too, so I guess it's a way for you to stop the opponent from approaching? Mega Man Super, the Mega Cannon, is a full-screen projectile that does 300 damage outside of a combo. But if it comes during the end of a route, the game's damage scaling will lower this by a lot. As Street Fighter X Tekken allows for normal into super cancels, Mega Cannon is best used after a magic series for an easy combo ender. Speaking of combos, the best route for Mega Man I found requires full meter and corner positioning, as without these factors, his damage output won't be that good. Overall, the Blue Bomber's game plan is that of a shoto, a very average, mundane, and run-of-the-mill shoto who barely passed the Street Fighter X Tekken entrance exam. On the other hand, Pac-Man's gameplay design is quite the conundrum, incorporating all types of attacks that I simply haven't seen before. Nah, I'm lying, he's also really basic. Pac-Man is all about frustrating the enemy with mid to long range pokes, and if they take risks to gain ground, he can punish with anti-airs or a cross rush. Crouching Light Punch is a 4-frame jab with less range than you'd think, although it's a reliable punishment tool for when his heavies are too slow. Standing light punch and crouching light kick are 5-framers that also begin combos, but they too suffer from mediocre range. Jumping lights aren't anything special either, as while they look like cross-up tools, they'll fail to connect in situations like these. Pac-Man standing medium buttons have noticeably greater range, but they can't be special cancelled, reducing them to minor annoyance tools. Crouching medium punch can chain into a projectile, but this fails to combo when spaced, with the same phenomenon applying to crouching medium kick. Jumping medium punch is a generic horizontal button, whereas its kick counterpart travels upward. Standing heavy normals are where the party gets started, as their range is fantastic. These buttons also can't cancel into specials, but they make up for it with their reach and damage output. Crouching heavy kick and heavy punch don't reach as far, however, with their aerial version serving as slow jump-ins, especially jumping heavy punch. This has 14 startup frames and will fail to connect when performed late into a jump-in. Despite their extensive recovery, I would suggest using Pac-Man's heavy normals and neutral to tag enemies who prefer to keep their distance, with the faster buttons being reserved for those who love to rush forward. As a side note, I happen to notice that many normals have been taken from other fighters. Heavy punch belongs to Dudley, heavy kick belongs to Ken, and jumping light kick belongs to Sagat. Special moves are up next, with Pac-Dot being first on the chopping block. Putting the awesome animation aside, it's literally identical to the Mega Buster, down to the startup frames. EX Pac-Dots do hit the enemy twice, but they keep them standing, so there's not much that hasn't already been said. Although Mega Man had some anti-air normals, Pac-Man's only option for situations like these is the flip kick. Light and medium have no invincibility but leave him standing, with heavy and EX having 8 invincibility frames yet knocking him over. This property has been pulled directly out of Law's playbook, and for what it's worth, I think it's amazing that Pac-Man of all characters has a meterless invincible DP. Sure, it's minus 10 billion on block, but sometimes you just gotta throw out a wake-up DP to get them off you. Hip attack is an aerial ground slam, and this can thankfully be done out of a forward or backward jump. Take that, Mega Man. All versions result in a hard knockdown, and as Pac-Man tends to switch sides right before he makes contact, it can serve as a sneaky cross-up. Meterless hip attack is minus 56 on block, while the EX version is only minus 6. Many characters can still punish this, but it can be decent for throwing the enemy off their tempo from time to time. Pac-Dash is the cherry on top of the weird mascot character sundae, as there are 3 levels you have to master. Inputting the move normally knocks the enemy onto their butt, a slight charge sends them flying away into a knockdown, and a full charge leads to a wall bounce. Having 3 distinct hit properties tied to one special move is quite fascinating, but with how long this charge portion takes, you'll rarely, if ever, see Pac-Dash be used to its full potential. With that said, seeing Pac-Man force his robot to Naruto run across the screen never gets old, and this animation alone instantly makes it the best special move in the game. Jokes aside, I genuinely don't know how you're supposed to get a full charge. The best I could do was a level 2 charge from Dudley's EX Machine Gun Blow, so if you're aware of a way to tag combo into level 3 Pac-Dash, please post it in the comments. Pac-Laser is the super we've all been waiting for, and as its titular laser fails to render on PC, it looks like Ryu was being attacked by Pac-Man's secret mind control powers. In terms of Pac-Laser's gameplay functionality, the only quality that stood out to me was how its downwards trajectory is great at catching enemies in air combos. Outside of that, it's nothing crazy, doing as much damage as the average mid-screen Kazuya B&B. Now that we understand the ins and outs of Pac-Man and Mega Man on a surface level, I think it's important to dive deep into their strengths and weaknesses. Look, I'm gonna be honest, trying to find legitimate high points within these characters' toolkits is like trying to find water in the desert, but I've done my best to look for the good. For starters, the 2 fighters possess some level of screen control through their projectiles. These specials are far from being amazing, but on the bright side, they can be charged for a meterless EX move. Mega Man's ice and airborne projectiles instantly make him a better keep-out character than Pac-Man, who unfortunately only has his Pac-Dot attack. Sorry, buddy. Additionally, their combo damage isn't the worst thing ever, I suppose? Don't get me wrong, it's not very good, but at least you can do a reliable combo from anywhere on the screen with either character. Their DPs function as consistent combo enders that can be tag cancelled for follow-ups, allowing them to safely escape off-screen if they're low on health. The aforementioned Pac-Man heavy normals and Mega Man's 5-framers might work in a pinch if you're desperate for options, but this is still unlikely. Yeah, I'm struggling to find anything solid here. Perhaps there's some golden quality hiding in the shadows that I'm unable to see, but from what I can currently tell, Mega Man and Pac-Man have almost nothing going for them. Right from the get-go, I wouldn't be surprised if you noticed their horrid mobility. Both characters have some of the slowest walk speed in the whole game, and their dashes aren't any better. These have extended startup and recovery portions, almost making them completely useless. With how speedy the top tier fighters are, there's zero chance that they'll be caught in neutral by Pac-Man and his mating dance. But let's say that this does happen. Let's say that Pac-Man or Mega Man manages to catch up with their opponent. What can they do here to assert dominance over the match? A whole load of nothing is what they can do, as none of their tools are genuinely threatening. Stubby normals and throws that send the enemy away from them are what they have to go for, as there are no standing overheads, instant overheads, chip damage tools, or block string pressure techniques that can be capitalized on. If these guys make it in, and that's a big if, they're forced to use only the most generic normals you've ever seen to somehow score a life lead. Even if you've never played Street Fighter X Tekken before, all you need to do to win these matchups is hold down back and occasionally tech some throws. Seriously, Mega Man and Pac-Man both lack strong grounded options that dictate the match's pacing, leading to them playing second fiddle the moment the match begins. All of this is terrible, but there's one extra factor that I didn't even realize at first. Like with the mainline Street Fighter games, every character here fits into one of many health categories, with a general rule of thumb being that the larger the character, the more life they have. Hugo, Kuma, and Zangief are the three healthiest characters in the game, and as Pac-Man and Mega Man respectively make use of a robot suit and a beer belly, you would think that they would be up there in terms of health. What's funny is that both of them are tied for the third lowest health value in the game. Toro is the worst at 600 health, Kuro and Cole both have 700, and Mega Man and Pac-Man have 800. Yes, 800 health, less than Akuma and Kami. If a character's allergies are playing up, and they so much as sneeze in Mega Man's general direction, he'll have to be sent in for repairs. I can't stress enough how much this sucks, as even meterless combos and basic B&Bs are enough to turn a battle's tide against them. Worsening matters is how they fail to capitalize on Street Fighter X Tekken's tag mechanics. The biggest combo I could find with either character after a cross rush or a tag cancel DP was a button into another DP. In neutral, they can never force a mix-up against an opponent stuck in block stun, and they can't begin strings like this themselves in the first place. This all leads to a shocking lack of support value, as you can never count on either fighter to begin, extend, or conclude big tag combos, as well as providing zero comeback potential. Not even the gem system can rectify these issues, as even when they're lit up like a glow stick, other characters' base stats still reign supreme. What I find most fascinating is that the same can all be said for Cole, Toro, and Kuro. Now that I think about it, I refuse to believe that Capcom intentionally developed 5 joke characters on purpose. Someone on the balancing team must have gone completely overboard with nerfs during development, as these fighters don't even function properly half the time. Aside from Pac-Man T-posing upon taking damage in the PC port, I can't think of anything positive to say about his or Mega Man's gameplay. Aesthetics-wise, yeah, they're awesome, but I can't help but view them as being too weak for their own good. With how crazy their respective universes are, there are so many wacky moves that could have been included in Street Fighter X Tekken, so it's a major shame that they turned out to be ultra low-tier shotos. Despite being weaker than a newborn baby, Pac-Man and Mega Man are some of my favourite fighting game guest characters, just on sheer morbid curiosity alone. As a kid, I remember viewing Street Fighter X Tekken as this wild jungle of imagination where anything could happen, and these fighters' inclusion solidifies that notion in my head. If you're interested in checking out some low-tier action for yourself, you can easily download the game on PC and give them a spin. Who knows, maybe one day someone will make a big discovery that reveals something unique about their game plans, but aside from the infamous Mega Man glitch where he would fly out of the map, I can't think of anything particularly special myself. With how both fighters were PlayStation exclusive, it goes without saying that they were banned from competitive play. Honestly, I don't think anyone would have selected them anyway, so this decision really didn't amount to much. But in case you were wondering if there was any tournament footage of them in action, there sadly isn't, at least not from any majors. In conclusion, Mega Man and Pac-Man are welcome additions to Street Fighter X Tekken's roster, but you can think of them as people who brought nothing to the family gathering while everyone else brought some really nice snacks. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you and your time, and I hope you had fun. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.